In this episode of OG55, I am joined by the one, the only Mr. Lucas Kim. We're talking all about South Korea, its impact in America, in pop culture, whether it be through the music, through a lot of entertainment, like, K-dramas and what have you. We're going to talk about the food. We're going to talk about Lucas's fairly recent trip to South Korea. We're going to break it all down, talk about it up next on this episode of OG55. Welcome aboard, everybody, to another episode of OG55. I have my friend here, Mr. Lucas Kim. We're talking all about South Korean culture, the food, his trip to South Korea, just everything in regards to South Korea. We're going to talk about it, break it down. Mr. Lucas, we do appreciate you. How are you today, sir?
Doing good. Thanks for inviting me today. I do appreciate it.
Yeah, absolutely. I've been wanting to do this show for a while now and bring you on and kind of talk about it. I think it's an interesting topic. Not everyone's familiar with it, so it's a cool little educational tool for people that are not familiar with South Korea and the culture, the pop culture, the food, all that good stuff. But Mr. Lucas Kim, if you let everybody at home know where they can find you on social media before we dive right in.
Sure. You can follow me on Twitter, also known as X, as Lucas Kim, or also you can find me on Blue Sky, same name, and then you can also follow me and subscribe on YouTube channel Lucas and Disney.
Perfect. All right, so let's dive right in. First half of the show, I want to kind of break down the food, the pop culture, all that good stuff. So, Korean entertainment, whether it be music, whether it be like those K dramas or movies, whatever, has taken America and the Western world by storm. I mean, it's absolutely insane how popular it's become in our culture, right? It's taken over
Right.
in a lot of ways. I've fallen in love with. I've made no bones about it. People know on this channel I fell in love with K-pop. It was something that I did not think I was going to like, to be honest with you. I kind of came across it almost accidentally doing some video editing for a friend, Mr. Theme Park Wizard. I came across a lot of these groups, and I absolutely fell in love with the music and just the overall energy that these groups have and the production value and what have you. But in your opinion, Lucas, like, what is the secret sauce here? Why do you think Korean entertainment has taken such a big hold in the Western world? What's going on with that?
I think it has to do with the difference of I guess like a different taste of like the music rhythm when it comes down to music wise, but when it comes down to film wise, it definitely has a different view of it, like a choreography and a little bit of screenwriting is quite different from how the Western Hollywood would make their movies usually. Um, Mostly like if I have to recall, South Korean movies such as Old Boy would be the biggest example that brought into a big boom into the Western Hollywood industry, because some of the filming style, the screen uh, choreography was something that the Western Hollywood has never done before, and therefore that brought into people's attention. And like, and a couple of other like Korean dramas, you know um they never, like, usually when it comes down to American dramas or like American like TV shows, if people are watching the show, they just keep continuing on with the next season over and over again until like people just stop caring about it and they just kind of like end the series just like that.
Yeah.
But when it comes into South Korean dramas, you present a series with one full script, and they, you don't continue it just because it's popular. You just leave it as it is, because you write it from the beginning to the end, and you just stick with it to the end of the story. Sure, if it's popular enough, they will consider it, but that's really the rare case in most of the situation.
Yeah, it's interesting because I haven't dipped into the Korean dramas as much as the music. But what's interesting about the the K-pop stuff is that it's very different than American pop music, and this is one of the things I've noticed here is that in American pop music, let's say you take someone like a Taylor Swift, right?
Right.
It's she feels very much like a celebrity. Like she's like this unattainable, like on this pedestal sort of like celebrity, like her, versus the world sort of thing, where she feels very unattainable. Where the K-pop, what I've noticed is no matter how big these groups get, whether it be Blackpink or aespa or however big these groups are, there's a certain level of like humbleness there, right? Where they're still interacting with their audience through like fan chats and things like that. They're doing funny like almost like TikTok-y videos together. Like they feel much more grounded, much more down to earth. You feel like almost like even though you don't know them personally, you feel like you do though. And that's the one thing I really love about this music too is that you kind of it's different than like if you're a fan of like like Taylor Swift or some other pop group in America where it's like like I said it's a celebrity and it's like they're kind of there in their own little world. Where K-pop, I feel like you almost feel like these groups, the gentlemen and the gals who do these who are in these groups. It's a different kind of feeling, and it does feel more grounded. It does feel more humble. Do you notice that, Lucas, with this stuff, or is that just sort of my interpretation of it?
A little bit. So like Korean music has a very long history. So like if I really want to go over the Korean music, then it can go even before 1900s. But because it started with like the kind of like a poetry type of like the with an instrument like the string instruments, and then they would what we call would be the pansori would be like the what pansori is basically you use a like a very like a thick string instruments, and then the drums, and they would like sing it through there's no microphone or anything like that. It would be just like a dancing and like a regular traditional dancing, a little bit more like a gypsy type of like a culture. And South Korea had that very very long time. And then around like the post what is it 1950, like after the Korean War, around that time, the music, like the revolutions kind of changed as the American U.S. Army came along, and then they like started learning about like the American music a little bit. And then around 1980s is what we call the Korean pop music as a booming culture for us at during that time. Um, One of the biggest Korean like the pop group known as Sotegi and the Boys um, is one of the most popular that brought attention to not only the South Korea but also in Japan, and also some part of like the small part of the Western world. And that's why one of the like, that song was imported within America movie called The Three Ninjas. I don't know if you ever heard that movie
Yeah,
before. The
I'm
three,
familiar with
three
it from
Yeah,
the '90s, right?
yeah, from the 90s. So that music was so popular, so the director decided to bring that music into that movie, but they were traveling to Japan and going to Tokyo, but they played Korean music in there because
Oh.
the director couldn't really you know understand if that was a Korean music or Japanese music. So he just put like, oh, this sounds pretty cool. So he just like decided to put it into like a Korean music into like a trip to Japan. So for those Koreans who actually know the song, we're like, why is this music in this in this
R-
movie?
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting, and it's definitely a time era thing. Like I feel like nowadays there's more of a respect thing with when it comes to that kind of stuff, right? Like you see a lot of like when Hollywood does a movie about a certain culture, they
Right.
tried to get voice cast or actors and actresses that reflect that culture, that come from that background. Where I feel like if that movie came out today, they would have had a little bit more of an understanding. Okay, this is Korean, this isn't Japanese, But it's interesting. The
Right.
'90s, we weren't as aware of that kind of stuff, so
Of
it's
course.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So, and around the time, like around late 1990 to around the time. Another like tech, what we would call is like a techno, like rave music right there. And there was a one female singer that brought into a lot of Westerners' attention, and that her musics were within the Dance Dance Revolution eventually, and
Oh,
that was
interesting.
brought into the attention. So that was also another the rise of K-pop, where they're like, "Oh, is this a Japanese song?" No, it's a K-pop song. So they kind of like started paying attention to that, and then the Pump It Up, the arcade game was also starting attention for the Korean music eventually into the markets. And then right around after 2002, the South Korea World Cup, that's when the Western Hollywood and then the music industry and then like they started like asking about, hey, like what kind of like media cultures do you guys have?
Right.
And then the SM Entertainment, SK Telecom, SM Entertainment, and then like the with the YG Entertainment, they started like rising up. And then before Big Bang, there was a singer named Seven, and then the YG family. That was like the biggest rise where like people started paying attention. And then the JYP was also another guy who raised up Rain into the industry, and that's how the Westerners started paying attention to Rain and JYP afterwards. That's where the whole like K-pop industry just like started booming.
So that was around, you said 2002, you said?
Yeah, around 2002, right afterwards, and then around 2006, 2005, 2006, Big Bang was like starting getting into the involved. Big Bang, the Girls' Generation, the Wonder
Yeah.
Girls, 2 p.m., 2NE1, 2 a.m. They all start. They That's when people feel that, oh, that's like where the K-pop started rising. Not really. It was actually like around the beginning of 2000. That's where like Westerners started paying attention a little bit
So
of
it's been
Korean
like
culture.
20 plus years kind of that this has been sort of building up, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. At the time, because J-pop and J culture was like the biggest thing, even back then, because due to the anime and then like the J drama anime and everything right there. But that was just like the whole like the Korea culture was like slowly going up, but while the J-pop was like already popular at that time, so and there was like a big competition going on.
that's fascinating. That's absolutely fascinating. Yeah, it's taken the world by storm. It's gotten so huge. You see a lot of these K-pop groups now. They're so mainstream in Western culture. I mean, you see like Jungkook, from BTS and stuff. He'll be like on Jimmy Kimmel, and all that, right? I mean, it's
Yeah,
become
yeah,
such a
yeah.
mainstay here in America now, where they're household names. You know what I'm saying? Blackpink, and I mean, Lisa from Blackpink recently did the Victoria's Secret fashion show. She was a
All
headliner for that.
right.
So it's wild how it's kind of taken hold. But 20 plus years, wow, that's it's been coming a long, long time. Do you think now, in your opinion, Lucas, do you think it's here to stay, or do you think this is going to? Is it more of a trendy thing for the states, or do you think it's something that now it's so ingrained that it's here for good?
I think it's overly saturated. That's my personal opinion. I mean, there's a big issue with like when it comes down to K-pop culture, and that has to do with like when just because you made one type of music group right there, it's getting popular. Okay, so we'll keep making more and more groups right there, and then we'll see where it goes. And then I think that becomes like people started like losing track of like which groups are which, and starting track of, oh, like every music are like pretty much the same, and they people get tired of it, and then they want something else different. And I think it's like around the time is right now is at the time where K-pop might actually like start to decline a little bit. And that's just my opinion, because when you're having too much of the same, same style or same company and like same rhythm right there, people start to lose interest, and then they go to something else. And all these the groups that were produced by the same type of like studios, and it's generated by the same like composer and producer. So they're gonna like release the same type of music all the time, which is why like JYP, for example, his music style is like almost always the same. Like you can tell because if you like for me because I listen to Sense Rain, during the JYP time. So if you listen to that type of rhythm right there, JYP has a very specific like taste in music right there. So like you can tell that like if it doesn't go the way this way right there, then he wouldn't even bother releasing it. So like some of the music's like 2 p.m. for example has a similar music like the following with the twice afterwards at the time. So.
Interesting. I kind of want to get your opinion. There's a group that's fairly new. I think their name is Cat's Eye, and they're a mixed group. Like the group isn't like all Korean. They're not even all Asian. It's a very, very mixed group, but they're still labeled as K-pop. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Like, do you feel like that sort of like, I don't know. Like, I feel like if you're going to call it K-pop, I feel like there should be connections to that Korean culture. That's what makes it K-pop, right? I don't know. I feel like I like Cat's Eye. I like their song. I think it's called Touch. They're great. They're very talented young ladies. But I mean, is it K-pop when you don't have, that heavily Korean influence on it? What's your opinion on that?
I mean, I think the half of the members are like non-Korean, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of interesting because Hype Corporation, they're pretty much like, anyone's okay as long as they're not like, Chinese right there. But like I don't know. Hive has its own. Hive always have their own style of music too. I don't know if you what is it like the BTS and the Seraphim, they have their own like rhythm style still, like almost still the same. Yeah, and I never heard Cat's Eye music, so I can't really judge. But listening to New Jeans, I'm pretty sure Cat's Eye is like that's almost a similar influence.
Yeah,
And
they sound similar to like they sound like, I mean, Cat's Eye sounds like K-pop. They sound like it, but
yeah,
they're just not.
but
Yeah.
But also, keep in mind that since New Jeans is no longer going to be continuing after like this week, so they kind of disbanded. I have a feeling the cast are going to probably take the roles of what New Jeans probably had so far, and the music might be like fusing together. I don't know. But like I said, like every part of these groups are under the same companies. It's always under the same type of composer. So the composer will always like makes almost similar music every single time. So that was also another issue I had with Big Bang and G Dragon because G Dragon always has a style that he goes by, and every time you listen to some kind of music right there, it's just like, yeah, I heard this before kind of thing.
That's interesting. Yeah, because for YG they use the gentleman's name is what, Teddy Park, I think, who does a lot of the composing. And
Yes,
okay.
yes. It's kind of interesting because the YG always had that same like, similar style before G Dragon. Well, I mean G Dragon has his own style too, but they also like they always had a similar type of rhythm style ever since the beginning of the YG, like family right there. And the CEO Yang, has his a taste in music that he seeks for. That's why that's why like at the time when the before like Big Bang, and after Big Bang, they always had the same similar music style, and that goes the same for the 2NE1 and then also or is it Blackpink? They got that little hip like the rhythm of that when the music goes, it goes a little upwards and then it goes downwards with the common like a similar to like the music swing style, is how I would say it. And then the rapping is also almost the same too, like the rhythm rapping, like
Yeah.
where it goes like it's a slow rap and then all of a sudden it's like a fast rap.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, I want to kind of pivot now to, so we kind of went through entertainment, right? I want to
Hmm.
kind of pivot now to food, right? In LA, out here in LA, we have quite a few Korean food options, a lot,
Right.
but not everyone in our audience is, from LA, I mean, even if you're from California, you might be in a part of California that doesn't have those options. You might be in a different part of the country that has zero Korean options. For someone who's kind of new to Korean food, like what would you kind of recommend? what would be a good starting off point for you personally to get someone kind of into the food of South Korea?
Okay, I mean, I guess like the top 10 that you probably can find for regular Korean food that you find in South Korea and also through America, such as like LA or New York. I think the number one choice that people usually get is like bibimbap is like the first choice. That would be the case. And then the second choice is probably like tteokbokki, like the spicy rice cake.
Right.
That would be the second option. And then third would be like let's see, kimbap, which is like like the opposite of a sushi roll. It's well, the sushi is like the rice on the outside, but kimbap it's a seaweed on the outside and the rice on the inside. So
Oh,
that's a little
interesting.
bit, yeah, that's a little bit different. And everyone always tells me, the next food is like the bulgogi is like another one that people have been, they usually eat, or like
Uh,
the fried Korean fried chicken wings. That's like another thing that people kind of tell me.
Now, the bulgogi, that's if I'm not mistaken, that's like the beef.
Yeah, that's the marinated thin beef, like um, mixed with like you have to marinate it first, obviously, and then when you start cooking it, like all like the meat itself starts like cooking, and then sometimes you might get like a water version of bulgogi, or you might get like the deep fry version of bulgogi. There's like a different types of cooking style that you can do with that, and
Interesting, interesting. Now, I out here in LA, I don't know if it's like. I have a question for you in regards to the food because out here in LA, we have a lot of Korean places and stuff, and a lot of these places offer corn dogs. And I'm wondering,
those
is
are
that a Korean thing, or is that something that American culture kind of infused into the menu, so to speak?
I kind of think that is both. I think it's a little bit of both. I think Americans don't really have what Korean style of corn dogs usually has, I guess. I don't know if you ever went to like Disney World or Disneyland, and if you order a corn dog, it looks like a plain like flat pancake, breaded corn dog, right?
Right.
But when it comes down to South Korean corn dogs, even when I was a child, um, they would use what we call like the crushed breaded crumbs, and then we would deep fry it into that, and then make it into the panko, what we call the panko corn dog. And now in this case, people are now calling it as ugly dog is what they would call it because it looks ugly. I guess that's what it is. I never heard of it calling it as an ugly dog, but I just started hearing like a friend of mine is like saying, "Hey, how about we get an ugly dog?" And I'm like, "What the heck is an ugly dog?" She's like, "It's a Korean corn dog." And I'm like, "Oh, I mean, just call it a Korean corn dog. Why you call it all ugly dog?" Um, yeah, but like the development of Korean corn dog has evolved so much that I guess they put like a sweet potatoes outside of it, and then like this cube looking ones that you can eat. Then there's like a mozzarella version, but back then it was just like straight straight Frank with a ugly dog right there. That was really it.
Interesting, interesting. And another thing that I've noticed too is the incorporation of, like you mentioned, mozzarella. There's a Korean place near my house that I go to where it's like you'll get like spicy, almost like a spicy ramen style food, but they'll put cheese on it.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's something that was never out when I was little. I think that was like something that eventually, like South Korea started developing like during their new modern days, I guess. Interesting thing about like a Korean modern foods is that all these Koreans in South Korea, they develop new ideas to like bring in like a foreigners or like tourists to be attracted by those foods. So, and like I can understand why they did that, and
Yeah.
it's pretty interesting style that they did. It's not something that like you would see it as like a traditional thing, but it was more of a modern thing that they do these days.
Yeah, yeah, it was interesting. I've never really considered that combo before, where like the ramen with like the cheese. It makes sense though. I mean, it was fantastic. It was so good, but it kind of offset because it was a very very spicy dish, and the cheese was kind of perfect sort of counterbalance to the spicy and stuff. It was just really good. But so now Korean barbecue is huge out here. I mean, people love Korean barbecue, and the Korean barbecue. What I love about it too is it's a social thing. It's like something that you get like a group of your friends or your family, and it's not just the food, it's the company that you're with, and it's a very social kind of environment. But now out here it's very popular out here in LA. There are a million places. I'm sure in New York you have a lot too.
Mhm.
In Korea, is it the same generalized concept with these Korean barbecue places, or does it differ than what we have out here in America?
I guess it's sort of different. I know that last year when I went to South Korea, like it was my first time actually being in the South Korean version of the Korean barbecue buffet. I think they like I don't know too much about it. I guess like that's something that you know they uh they probably developed something like that, and then they decided to bring it into South like America of that buffet style, and you just grab whatever the meat right there, you just grill it on top of the grill, and then serve yourself kind of thing.
Right.
But that would be one of the thing. But like back, like even like now, um, you would have your own little grill right there, corner right there, and most of the time, you don't usually get beef, like America does. Usually, it's mostly pork and chicken, and then sometimes like a little bit of like tripe, such as like the small stuffed small intestines that they would like grill on there, and that's like something that Koreans usually enjoy doing with while eating with soju, and that would be one of the examples that like the barbecue of South Korea barbecue would be.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. Now, before we pivot, I wanted to ask you because in there is like cultural differences, right? Like for American culture, when if you slurp your noodles, it's like considered rude. But in a lot of like Japanese culture, it's like if you slurp your noodles, it's a sign of respect. It shows you that you enjoy the food. Is there anything in Korean culture that is similar to that, where it's like that people that are not of Korean culture should be aware of if they're eating out, and they should understand that certain like taboos or things that they shouldn't do that might be seen as a sign of disrespect?
Um, there's like a lot of different type of table manners right there, I guess. But one of the examples, like if you like slurp, um, I wouldn't really call it as like a like disrespect or respect. I think, but for me, I'm not a big fan of like when people like make slurping noises, only because that's just how I grew up, like in that environment when I was young, and my parents like and pretty much told me not to make slurping noises or make munching noises, but most of the Koreans usually do have a really bad munching sounds, like like they make that like a smuckering like a nom nom sound right there, and I don't know why that would be the case, but like I guess when you're eating rice, I guess that kind of gives you a little bit of smuckering sound right there. But for me, I just grew up with like like to avoid making that sound, and then avoid making like when you're eating noodle, avoid making that like slurping sound too. So it's just like but usually a lot of Koreans, and even in like in New York City right there, they make a lot of noises, and it does bother me a little bit, but that's just how it is. I'm pretty sure a lot of Westerners don't like that sound too when they're eating, making too much munching noises. But I think that's just a general like etiquette, or like how you it's just a personal opinion of etiquette than like the culture thing these days is like a lot of Koreans don't like mind their own business these days. Like that's just they don't like just walk to you and say you shouldn't be doing that or anything like that.
They kind of keep to themselves about it. Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. So let's pivot now to you went to South Korea. You said it was a little over a year ago now or so.
Right. It's just about 10 days. It wasn't a long trip. It was just like kind of like, kind of wish I stayed a little bit longer to like, travel a little bit more, but at the time, like I was like half sick too. So I didn't really enjoy as much as I wish I would have. It was like right after I was recovering from like COVID, so while I was there, it wasn't like entertain. It was not enjoyable. Like when it comes down to eating and the like, I wanted to travel a little bit more, but because I was like tired and everything, and then the whole jet lag and time differences, that kind of like brought me to a little bit like preventing me from like walking around a little bit more too. That, but it was overall a fun trip, and I kind of wanted to go a little bit more. And next time I go, I'll probably like travel a little bit more too. That would be the case.
Yeah, it's interesting. Now, when you were down there, did you just what did you do? I mean, you mentioned that there was a theme park out there that's sort of their version of like a Disneyland. Did you guys attend that when you were down there?
No, but I can tell you that it's probably still the same as when I was there when I was 10. Um, I can tell you like my memories exactly when I was there back then, because the Lotte World is technically um what we call Korean Disneyland. Like they have their own Mickey Mouse and Minnie Mouse characters right there too. The castle is
Oh,
pretty much Disneyland castle too, and the park there's a park indoor and outdoor. There are two like different parks right there, with a
oh.
ice skating rink on the very bottom of the ground floor is people to skate around, and then the upper floor is a indoor like a coasters and regular rides right there.
That's interesting. And now, is that park pretty popular out there? Is it? I mean, is it something that a lot of people go to, or?
Yeah, it's like one of those parks that you like. If you're a tourist, like, you must go type of place. I guess that would be the case. And but for people like me, I actually said that I wanted to go, but at the same time, a lot of Koreans are like, you went to this Walt Disney World. Why bother going there? Like it'll be on a different level. So a lot of Koreans who always go to Lotte World, like always dream of going to Disneyland or Walt Disney World. But like a lot of Korean, I mean, a lot of tourists who never went to Lotte World feel that they might enjoy going to Lotte World. I guess that like, it's just like a little bit of differences. But I think that's
I'm
also the reason why like Disney has never thought about building a park over there. I think it's because of Lotte World. That
See,
was
that's interesting. You said I was actually just going to ask you that. So you think it's because of that park that's why? Because America and South Korea, we have a great relationship, and it surprises me that they never went over there. But I guess because of that other park, they felt like it would be kind of maybe redundant, or it would be hard to kind of tap into that market.
I think it's more of the original founder of the Lotte company. His dream was making his own like magical land, just like Disneyland, and he succeeded in building one. And I think they have that like special rights where other companies like that includes Disney themselves are not allowed to build their own land in South Korea.
Interesting.
I know that South Korea made an excuse saying that like the area is like still considered as like a quote war zone or something like that, but I don't think that's the case. I think it's just that like it's the company Lotte has a very big political connections with the South Korean political parties and everything. So I'm pretty sure like Disney probably threw in like billions of dollars or offer saying, "Hey, we want to build this park, build a park in your country,
Right.
and a lot of people will come over. Why, how about we do that?" And I'm pretty sure South Korea probably consider doing it, but at the same time, they're like, no, we have a political connection with this company known as Lotte. We can't just completely make a different park right here to lose their business. So it's a little bit of a difficult situation right there. I think that is really the big reason why Disney still hasn't approached about it. because there's no way that people will refuse to go to South Korea Disneyland if it was ever built. See what I
Yeah, I
mean?
mean, it seems like it'd be something that'd be successful, and like we have a very good relationship with South Korea, and I mean, we have a better relationship with South Korea than we do China, and we built parks in China, so it feels like a no-brainer. But that's interesting. That's interesting that the dynamic there with the other park that currently exists there.
Right, and then there's another park that is owned by Samsung, known as Everland, and that's a little bit of the south of Seoul, and that's another big like amusement park with the zoos, like similar to like a safari zoos, with similar to what is it, Animal Kingdom. So I heard that that park is like not getting a lot of tourists anymore, and a lot of attractions has been getting lesser attention and attendance. So if Samsung ever wants to sell it, I mean, and Disney there is open for Disney to buy it. I mean, I would say go for a Disney, or I'm assuming the Universal might be able to purchase it too.
Yeah,
That's another option. As of right now, like the South Korea's tourism has declined significantly, actually.
that's interesting. No, why I did not know that. Why do you think that is? I would think the opposite, just because of how popular the pop culture is in America. The South Korean pop culture, but it has declined recently. Do you think there's a reason for that, or is it just that natural ebb and flow of things?
I think it just has to do with the economic what is it, like inflation as well too over there. Like even like when I went there last year, you know, like it's a lot of foods and everything are all so cheaper than America. Trust me. But the thing is that like touring around these areas, like it's still not enough. Like the prices comparing to Japan. Also, if you look at it, like Japan, even though we always talk about Tokyo Disneyland and then Universal Japan, there a lot of people are going there due to like the new Fantasyland and every Fantasy Springs. But the things that like a lot of my Japanese friends have told me that the tourism of Japan has significantly declined comparing to several years ago.
Wow.
So I think it just has to do with like the same goes, if Japan's tourism declines significantly, that goes the same for Korea as well too. I think it's just like I think the economic like inflation and people's like just not able to afford to like travel to like Korea or Japan would be considered the reason why um
Yeah.
there's a big decline right there.
Yeah, I've known a lot of people that yeah, you're right. I mean, you're right. When they go to like Tokyo, Japan, they do like the whole our friend Jason Hill, actually, that we ran into at D23. I think he even said the same thing. When he goes to Asia, he takes like a month, and he does he does all the countries. He goes to like, Korea, Japan, Thailand, because while you're down there, you might as well just hit them up. You know what I'm saying? For like,
Right.
and just take the time. And maybe a lot of people do that. From the West, they go there and they do a lot of the different countries. So if Japan's seeing a downturn, Korea's seeing a downturn, that kind of points in that direction, where it's like they're kind of staying away in general. So
Right.
that's fascinating. That's fascinating. Yeah, so we'll see. So now, anything in your trip that kind of stood out for you? I mean, that you did out there that was notable, or?
You have to understand that like South Korea isn't just about like K-pop and K-drama when you're visiting there. I'm pretty sure like the first thing that every tourist does is like, oh, if I land into Korea, I hope I run into Jungkook like eventually. I think that would be like the first,
Yeah.
who would have thought, right?
Yeah.
Because some Instagram, some of these people just end up like meeting, like running into like somebody at the Korean 7-Eleven and say, "Hey, Lee Jung Jae is eating ramen like right next to me," and I took a photo with him. I mean, like that's just like a 1 out of a 1 million case. So, a lot of Korean tour, like the like American who visit Korea, they don't really visit Korea to like see the celebrity. They actually visit Korea to like really understand the culture.
That's cool.
So going to like the first thing that they usually go to is like go to like a historical locations. Um, in this case, it would be the royal Korean palace of Gyeongbokgung is the first place that usually Korean you know these tourists usually go to, and then they usually rent the traditional Korean clothes known as hanbok, and they would wear it, and they go around these palace and they tour around it, and right outside of the palace, a lot of Westerners borrow these suits for like maybe I don't know like just about like $20 to $40 like for the whole day right there, and then
Wow.
and then they tour around, and and then you can see y- they're easy to notice. Like you can see them like wearing these like a very flashy like traditional hanbok clothes, and then taking photos and selfies, and a lot of Korean staff members like and the like Koreans appreciate that like they're okay with the Westerners wearing that because they know that like these people appreciate the culture. But obviously, there are those Westerners who, obviously some tourists who kind of like go over the line and disrespect certain culture, like Korean cultures right there, and do wrong things. And then obviously, Korean like people will say, "Hey, you can't do that kind of thing right there." But usually, these Western tourists are very respectful. They do whatever they can to make sure they don't go overbound. But that would be one of the place. That was the first place that I actually visited. Like last year, I said I want to go to the Royal Palace, and that was one of the places that I visit. Now, since the presidency changed, now you can actually visit the Blue House of South Korea as a tour zone now. Back then, South Korean president usually lived there, so you can't really visit there for tourism. But now, since the president has moved to a different building, since his presidency has changed, now you can the tourists can actually visit what's inside the Blue House of the South Korea now, and
Interesting.
yeah, that's one of the places I would probably recommend people of going. Another thing that I went to was Yongsan Electronics Market. Basically,
Okay.
is basically what we call like a third party market of like electronics that people sell. So these markets, they sell like retro items or something that you have not seen since 80s too. They might sell it on the market right there.
What like VCRs and things like that?
Yeah, and they clean it up and they make sure that like everything's working in a mint condition again.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, and then a lot of like Western tourists, like such as gamers themselves, actually go to Yongsan Market to purchase the very like unopened Game Boy, the very first edition unopened Game Boy for $300,
What?
and then they would bring it over to America and sell it on eBay for $5,000.
What? Oh my! Now, is that on your screen? Can I share it, Lucas?
Yeah,
Is that what
sure.
you have? Is that the market
Yeah.
that you're referring to? So this is the market that it's Youngsung Electronics Market Tours. That's
Yep.
incredible. So they have like the old school Game Boys or like
Game Boys, like they have like the what's a Virtual Boy. They have like the N64 games and every single one of those things.
Well, that's amazing. That's like a nerd dream. That is awesome. That's
Yeah,
absolutely awesome.
they sell like airsoft. They sell like Gundam figures, toys. They sell like drones. They sell like the old retro cameras like and batteries. So in case if you're in America and then you have like a very old classic cameras that are retro and but like you don't have the parts to purchase because it's so expensive, you might actually run over here and might actually find one. And obviously, they might like try to like sell you expensive at the first start, but you can kind of haggle the price right there, and they'll try to work it out with you. So
Okay.
the tourist has to beware that, because people like me, because I'm Korean myself, so you know that type of like them trying to upprice me doesn't really work right there.
Right, right.
But usually they do try. they do try to rip off the Western tourists.
Like my ass would walk up, get ripped off, probably, right?
Yeah, they'll try to rip you off, and then you just gotta like haggle your way, saying you're like, oh no thanks, I don't want to do it, and then they're like, okay, let me try to talk in the back, and then they'll like try to lower as much as possible, and that would be the case right there.
Okay, cool. I
Or
didn't.
yeah, or another way is you buy one thing and then you buy something else altogether, and you pack it up, and then they'll do like some kind of like a deal right there.
Oh, okay. All right. Interesting. Like a package deal because you buy several items, so they're kind of
Right,
packaged.
right.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. So now this market, how far? Like, so if a Westerner, let's say we go, I'm going to, I'm going to Seoul, South Korea.
Mhm.
Like, where is this market in relation to that? Like, I mean, is it something that it's kind of in Seoul, or is it in like the general proximity to that, or how do you where is it located in to some of these other bigger cities and what have you?
Um, it would be in Seoul, I guess. Seoul is a really big place. So the map would let me show you on the screen right there.
Okay.
Seoul is right here.
Okay.
And then technically, if you look at it, Seoul technically covers almost the entire area right around here. So Yongsan is actually a little bit just around the corner right there.
Okay.
Yongsan used to be a very popular place during my days, but now people don't actually purchase like the Yongsan electronics. They usually go to like the Best Buy style of Korean electronics these days
Oh,
because they believe
interesting.
that they believe that um the modern like electronics are a lot cheaper than what they sell at the Yongsan. So usually you only go there for like the retro devices or devices that don't sell in local market anymore. That's the only
Okay.
reason you would go there.
Okay. Interesting. Interesting. All right. One of these days, Lucas, I'm gonna go down there. Maybe we can go together. We'll all go together. It'd be fun. It'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It'd be a lot of fun to take a trip down there. Um, kind of take in all the culture and the food and all that good stuff. So, but I do want to thank you, Lucas, for coming on and kind of sharing this with us. I've learned a lot today. I hope the audience did as well. If you can just kind of remind everybody where they can find you on social media.
Okay, you can find me on it's Lucas Kim at the X and Twitter. Also, you can also find me on Blue Sky, and you can also subscribe Lucas and Disney. That's also my channel. And if you're interested in talking about Disney or if you have any questions about like Korean culture or where to go, I'll do my best to help you out. I'm just gonna warn you, I'm not like 100% like knowledgeable in South Korea just yet because I haven't been there in 25 years, and last year was like my like first time ever since I was little.
Yeah. No, absolutely. But if you have any questions, though, shoot Lucas a DM on Blue Sky or X or whatever your preferred platform is, and I'm sure he'd be more than happy to kind of help you out and answer some questions. But Lucas, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. Comment down below with all of your thoughts on everything we discussed today in terms of music, entertainment, the food, the theme parks, the electronics, all that stuff. We would love to hear from you. And you can either message Lucas on those social media platforms, or you can even leave a comment down below with any questions you might have to Lucas. If you leave it in the comments down below, I will forward those questions to Lucas so he can address that. But yeah, thank you all so much for watching this episode of OG55. And until the next time, see everybody later.
Thank you for watching OG55. If you aren't already, consider becoming a member today.